Hey friends, get ready, because I'm about to tell you a story that will totally blow your mind about chance and fate. Did you know that a Canadian named Ashley Wadsworth just dreamed of visiting Britain, and because of one seemingly small decision, she found herself at the center of an unusual event that completely changed her life? Just imagine how one choice can lead to such unexpected consequences. And this is just the beginning. I have a few more of these exciting twists and turns in store, where emotions weave amazing plots. Let's dive into a world where surprises become reality, and keep you on the edge of your seat until the very end. Ashley Wadsworth was a 19-year-old girl from a small Canadian town who loved life in all its forms. Her friends and family describe her as cheerful, kind, and open to new adventures. Ashley loved to travel, explore uncharted corners of the world, and make friends with people from different countries. She always dreamed of something bigger and believed that fate would give her something special. This story began just like many modern relationships do. Online. Ashley met Jack Seppel, a young Brit, on one of the social media platforms. They started chatting, and it quickly grew into a friendship, and then into a romantic relationship. They communicated for several years, discussing their dreams, plans, and sharing moments from their lives. For Ashley, it was a special connection. Jack felt like a kindred spirit to her, someone she could talk to about anything. After months of virtual communication, they started making plans to meet in real life. Ashley decided to head to Britain to see Jack and spend time together. She dreamed of a romantic trip where their relationship would transition from virtual to real. Ashley decided to head to Britain to see Jack and spend some time together. She dreamed of a romantic trip where their relationship would move from virtual to real. Ashley finally decided to make her dream come true, to meet Jack in real life. In November 2021, she flew to Britain full of joy and hope. This was her first big trip abroad, and she saw it as the start of a new chapter in her life. Ashley believed that ahead of her was not just a meeting with Jack, but also the chance to see the world she had dreamed of for so long. At first, everything seemed perfect. Ashley believed that ahead of her lay not only a meeting with Jack, but also the opportunity to see the world that she had dreamed of for so long. At first, everything seemed perfect. Ashley shared moments from her trip on social media, sweet photos from her walks, smiles, and happy captions. They were walking through the picturesque streets of Britain, visiting local attractions, and looking absolutely happy. For her friends and family, it was a love story that had come to life. But behind this beautiful picture, there was another side. Even though Ashley looked happy in the photos, over time, her behavior started to change. She began to reach out to her loved ones less and less, and she almost stopped posting on social media altogether. No one in her circle could have guessed that behind this silence lay a real danger. She was reaching out to her loved ones less and less, and she almost stopped posting on social media altogether. No one in her circle could have guessed that behind this silence lay a real danger. In February 2022, something happened that no one could have foreseen. Ashley Wadsworth was found dead. That evening, the police received a call with a disturbing message. When the authorities arrived at the scene, they were met with a horrifying sight. Ashley's body was inside the house. The medics who arrived with the police confirmed the girl's death. Experts quickly determined that her death was violent, leaving no doubt about what had happened. The first hours of the investigation were shrouded in mystery. The police carefully examined the crime scene, interviewed neighbors, and collected evidence. Everything indicated that the tragedy occurred suddenly, without any obvious warning. But then shocking facts started to come to light that I can't ignore. It turned out that Ashley and Jack's relationship was far from the harmony that could be seen on her social media. Behind closed doors, Jack began to show aggression and violence. As it turned out, Ashley and Jack's relationship was far from the harmony that could be seen on her social media. Behind closed doors, Jack showed aggression and violence. He not only hit Ashley, but also confined her at home, limiting her freedom. A terrifying episode occurred when Jack, enraged, smashed a beer glass over Ashley's head. He then forced her to pick up the shards, humiliating her and intensifying her fear. This was not an isolated incident, and their relationship tension was escalating. After this, he forced her to pick up the shards from the floor, humiliating her and increasing her fear. This was far from an isolated incident, and the tension in their relationship was escalating. Unable to endure the constant violence, Ashley decided to go back home to Canada. She shared this with her loved ones, who supported her desire to end the toxic relationship. But Jack clearly wasn't going to let her go that easily. His aggressive behavior was becoming more and more unpredictable, which ultimately led to the tragedy. These details show just how dangerous hidden forms of violence can be, and they remind us of the importance of seeking help in a timely manner. Before her death, Ashley frantically sent messages to her family and friends in Canada, begging for help. She wrote that her life was in danger. However, tragically, those messages reached the recipients only after several hours. But Jack Seppel strangled Ashley and then stabbed her at least 90 times in the chest and abdomen. This brutality is just beyond comprehension. What motivated this man? How could he do this to someone who trusted him? And the worst thing is, he continued his performance. Jack texted from her phone, claiming she just needed a COVID-19 test. And then, as if nothing had happened, changed his social media photo to one of them together, captioned, "Forever mine." This act makes me shudder with the realization of how perverted the sense of ownership can be. Jack Seppel was arrested and taken into custody at Chelmsford Prison. During the investigation, he claimed that he was under the influence of drugs and in a state of affect, but the examination completely refuted this. Later, he confessed that he killed Ashley to prove that she belonged to him. In September 2022, 23-year-old Jack Seppel pleaded guilty to the murder of 19-year-old Ashley Wadsworth. The court sentenced him to life in prison. Right now, he's serving his sentence. And you know, this story reminds me of how important it is to notice the warning signs and protect those who might be in danger. Let me tell you another story that just won't leave my mind. Sometimes, fateful encounters happen not online, but right in real life, during travels. On vacation, people often relax, experience a ton of positive emotions, and let their guard down. We start to believe that the world is safe, and life is an adventure that should be lived to the fullest. That's exactly what 24-year-old British woman Sarah Groves thought. Sarah was a young, vibrant girl. During one of her trips, she met someone who seemed to be kindred spirit. Inspired by the romance of the moment, she trusted this acquaintance, not suspecting where it would lead her. This trip turned out to be fateful for her. At some point, instead of a safe adventure, she found herself in the middle of horrifying events. Quit your job, buy a ticket, sunbathe, fall in love, never come back. These were the words Sarah Groves wrote in her microblog before heading off on her long-awaited trip to India. At first, Sarah traveled through the major cities of India, soaking up the culture and new experiences. Then she went to Goa, where she met a handsome Indian guy named Sammy Shoda. I can understand why she fell in love. The romance, the travels, the exotic setting, and his charisma did their magic. They became inseparable, and when he suggested they go to Kashmir so he could introduce her to his family, Sarah naturally agreed. Everything looked perfect. Sammy's family welcomed her warmly. They offered her to stay at their home, but Sarah chose independence and rented a room in a houseboat nearby. Who would have thought that this decision would turn out to be fateful? And this is the moment. 3 o'clock in the morning. Imagine, Sammy's mother wakes up to screams coming from Sarah's room. That heart-wrenching scream, she rushes in and sees Sarah lying in a pool of blood, clutching her phone. I get chills just thinking about what she was trying to do in the last seconds of her life. Call for help, get in touch with someone. According to the police who arrived at the scene of the tragedy, Sarah was stabbed 46 times. Another guest of the houseboat, a Dutch guest, Richard de Vita, was missing. He was later arrested 45 miles from Sarah's body. His shoes were found at the crime scene, but he had disappeared. He was later arrested 45 miles from where Sarah's body was found. And what struck me the most was that he wasn't even wearing shoes. The Dutchman later confessed to the murder, but refused to reveal details, limiting himself to the strange phrase, "It was as if the devil had possessed me." However, he soon retracted his words, claiming that he had been set up. It's hard to tell where the truth is and where the lies begin. Sarah's family is confident that the murder could have been connected to more than just Richard. They themselves drew attention to many inconsistencies in the testimony of relatives. For example, it's suspicious that the police were only called an hour after the body was found. The girl's parents are afraid they may never find out the truth about what happened to their daughter. To date, there have been over 225 court hearings, but the case remains unsolved. In Kashmir, investigations can drag on for years, and Sarah's situation is complicated by the lack of sufficient witness testimony. Her family has been fighting for justice for over 9 years, but unfortunately has still not achieved a guilty verdict. This case is a prime example of how agonizingly long the search for truth can take and how difficult it is to achieve justice in a foreign country. Sometimes couples, instead of tackling their relationship issues, choose the path of distraction. For example, they go on a trip together. It seems like a good idea to change the environment, forget about quarrels, and immerse yourself in romance. But honestly, I think it might be a trap. If your partner is already raising doubts, no trip is going to save the situation. That's exactly what happened in one terrible story. In October 2022, the UK was shaken by a murder that took place in Peru. Carla Xiomara Celaya Godoy, a Spanish woman who worked in London, had long dreamed of visiting this Latin American country. She wanted to meet the relatives of her 46-year-old boyfriend, Jorge Alfredo Minaya Garay. The couple had been living together for a year and worked at the same British company. She wanted to meet the relatives of her 46-year-old boyfriend, Jorge Alfredo Minaya Garay. The couple lived together for a year and worked for the same British company. Carla envisioned the trip as an opportunity to get closer to Jorge and strengthen their relationship. But it amazes me how we sometimes turn a blind eye to the warning signs in our partner, hoping that everything will just work itself out. The trip, instead of marking the start of a new chapter in their relationship, turned into a nightmare. The trust that Carla had when she went with Jorge ultimately cost her her life. This story highlights how crucial it is to pay close attention to what's happening in a relationship and not to ignore even the smallest warning signs. Sometimes trying to escape problems instead of solving them leads to tragedy. Leaving her 8-year-old daughter in the care of her parents, Carla Xiomara Celaya Godoy went on vacation with her boyfriend, Jorge Alfredo Minaya Garay. She was thrilled about the trip and kept sharing photos with her family. Carla shared that she had already visited the famous Machu Picchu and checked out all the key sites in Lima. On September 22nd, she called her mother with some exciting news. They were in a taxi heading to visit his grandmother in the northern part of the capital, and they planned to return to Spain the next day. But as it turned out later, that meeting with the grandmother never happened. Jorge killed Carla, hid her body in a big blue bag, and buried it near his relative's house. It became possible to learn about this thanks to Jorge himself. He sent a voice message to Carla's brother, Eric, where he confessed to what he had done and pointed out where to find her remains. It took the police about 10 hours to retrieve the body. How could someone who traveled with you, shared their life with you, do something like this? The worst part is that by that time, Jorge had already managed to disappear. This story is terrifying in its brutality. How often do we overlook the dangerous signals in the people we trust? Carla believed she had found a partner with whom she could build a future. In the end, she became a victim of someone who saw her as nothing more than a way to exert control over her life. We have analyzed 3 stories, each of which causes horror, sadness, and many questions. I think the scariest thing about these events is how often we, immersed in emotion or romance, fail to notice the warning signs. Ashley believed in her Jack, Sarah trusted herself, and Carla compromised with Jorge, hoping to save their relationship. And all 3 paid for it with their lives. I hope this episode was not only informative for you, but also made you think. We strive to create content that inspires, amazes, and makes you see the world in a new light. Do you want to be a part of this process? Join our team. If you know how to edit videos, voice over clips, or write captivating scripts, you have a chance to be part of a team that makes the world brighter. We're always looking for creative people who are ready to share their talents. Message our Telegram bot, and maybe by tomorrow you'll be part of the team creating unique stories that inspire millions. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it made you think. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. See you next time. Until next time.